we had a party. Everybody was invited, and almost everybody came, including my mother and father, and my brothers, and cousins, and friends, and a lot of other people. And this, of course, we're talking over 50 years ago. So, and my mother was a fairly, relatively young and vivacious woman. And at one of our parties, there was this one fellow who took a shine to my mother. And he sort of followed her around the party. And Bob saw this happening, and being the gentleman that he was, he went to my mother and he said, Miss Castle, is William bothering you? If he is, let me know and I'll talk to him. And she looked at Bob and she said, honey, I was handling men like that before you were born. So Bob came back to me and said, well, that put me in my place. Bob's birthday was 2 days following mine. 1 year and 2 days difference between us. And we celebrated our birthdays together for many years. Bob and I kept in touch pretty much until my wife and I moved to North Carolina. We lost contact with each other. I've heard stories of him very different from my youth with him, but a great deal of insight into his later years. I especially have a story that includes Bobby Bill and the property in West Virginia. We went a couple of times fishing and camping with them. I'm trying to recall, I think Adria might have been there at this time. I don't think Lisa was even born yet. But we were fishing. Actually, my son Kevin, who is just, I think a little older than you, Bobby, 1 year or so older. And Bobby were fishing. We were in the river just below the trout fishery. And we didn't have licenses. Of course, these kids were young. They didn't need licenses. So we're sitting there, and we'd been fishing for probably an hour more. Kevin and Bobby Bill got, I know him as Bobby Bill. They got sort of bored, and they decided to go climb the cliff that was right there. So Kevin says to me, Dad, here's my fishing rod. We're going to go climbing. I took that fishing rod, and I didn't have time to reel it in before a fish hit. And I didn't have time to reel that fish in before the ranger came. And so we made a trip to the county seat, to see the master. And I lost my rod and reel. My choice was to pay a hefty fine or surrender my rod and reel, and I chose to surrender the rod and reel. The strange thing was they let us keep the trout. And so we went back to the camp, and Bob cooked the trout over the campfire. And we really enjoyed that. I think probably $125 trout. But that was us. You know, whatever came, we rolled with it. I've got a lot more stories. I'm not going to bore you with them now, maybe later.